Okay, so welcome to a special edition of Beyond Resistance Pod. We're here at MI Element Grades and Grounds in Midland. Just gathered today with our friend Alaynah, fellow activist and local elected official, because we felt like we needed to talk about what went down yesterday with Charlie Kirk and all of the response to it. So how are you both feeling about everything?
I don't know. I have so many feelings. I just, to reflect some things that I've heard from other people that I also do sometimes feel in this situation. I was very, 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 very opposed to most of the things that he said. I think his rhetoric was vile and just really problematic. So it can be hard to have empathy in that situation when you really dislike somebody or what they stand for. But at the same time, I just can't be happy that somebody
not have empathy.
Yeah, how can you not have empathy that somebody's life was taken and he, regardless of what you think of his political beliefs, I've heard people being, oh, he's such a family man and, all this stuff. It's like, and I can see where people be like, oh, how could he be a family man? He doesn't really care about anybody. I guarantee that's not true.
Yeah.
You can have awful political beliefs that apply to other people, but when it comes to your family, you can be a very wonderful person. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, I agree, and also I even if all that is aside, even if we put aside, the empathy part and the fact that he had a family and he's a human being regardless of whatever he said, and that morality side of things, the thing that I'm the most fired up about is we should be able to hold the values of our country as sacred, and this man, for whatever else you want to call him, was a political activist, just like all of us. Mm-hmm. He's a political activist, sure, on the other end of the spectrum, but if we cannot afford him the right to stand and say what is in his heart and it's his truth, however vile it is, then we lose safety and security for doing that too. And Alaynah, you mentioned a couple of things in the chat about kind of the fear and the kind of thinking about what happens and how do we approach the next protest or the next rally to come up.
Yeah, so I mean, all three of us go and speak in public. I mean, all three of us have spoke at protests. All three of us have spoke at rallies. I have spoken at a rally on a college campus. I've helped organize a rally on a college campus.
Public meetings.
Yeah,
public
meetings. I've been at public meetings where people have been very angry with me. I've been at public meetings where people have, told me to go to hell, that I would burn in hell, that my kids would burn in hell.
And it was a very large meeting. That specific one you're talking about was a very large meeting, and it was scary.
And even that, knowing that the police were there and presuming that no one could get a gun, it was still scary and nerve-wracking. And now with this, like we said, he's advocating for very, very different things, but he was at a college campus speaking his mind and at a rally with people that he believed to be supporters and was trying to hold a rally. And that's scary that he was doing that, something that we have done so many times and want to continue doing, that his life just ended. I mean, his life just ended. His family's life is radically altered forever. And just because he was speaking his mind, and it makes me nervous. I'm not saying I'm not going to public speak again, but it's another thing to take into consideration for if you are public speaking. Is there someone on a roof? Is this a protected position? Is there an ability to bring guns into this situation? And it's just another thing to think about when there's so many other concerns to think about. That shouldn't be on our list of worries.
Yeah.
No matter what your political opinions may be.
Yeah, and the kind of stuff that we do, like rallies here in Midland, Michigan, or protests or whatever, there's not Secret Service and there's not any kind of security. I mean, we let the police know, but only because if it has an impact on traffic. It's
Yeah.
not like they're, trying to secure the area. And the situation could happen anywhere. It could happen anywhere. And I am like, the feeling I'm feeling the most today is horrified at the reaction from the left. And I get where it's coming from. I know all the reasons where it's coming from. And yet this idea that it was some kind of like hilarious, karmic, result of what he was saying, it negates the fact that anything like this silences all of us when it comes to political speech. And that is the very foundation that our country was built on. And I'm horrified. I'm horrified at what's going on.
And I will say, just because this is who I am, but there's like Sarah and I are talking about like some online stuff that we've seen, and I don't know what you've seen, and I've seen both. I have seen majority of Democrats and progressives and blue-leaning people express horror and disgust at what happened, and express sympathy, that sort of messages. But there have definitely been some that were not positive in any way, and just you can't Charlie Kirk specifically made fun of us, the Democratic side, the blue side, progressive, however you want to define yourself. He made fun of us for having too much empathy. And I think some people have taken that lesson to mean we should not have empathy because they will make fun of us or it makes us look weak. I would like to counter that some of the strongest people I know have shown me their ability to feel emotions and work through emotions and empathize with someone else's emotions.
Even if you're diametrically opposed to what you believe.
Yeah.
Especially if you are.
Especially. Yeah, I forget who said it, so I apologize, person that made this point, but it was something to the effect of, we have to stand up for everybody's First Amendment rights. And if you're not willing to, then you're not for the First Amendment. You're for the First Amendment for you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we're fighting against.
Yeah.
This is the things that we're railing against.
Well, and railing against it, but also railing in support of, right? And especially our right to get up in front of people and speak our truth. And I just keep thinking about, like, as much as we dislike the things that Charlie Kirk said and like espoused, there are that same amount of people in our community who think the same thing about us, right? We think it's all about us and we're right and they're just wild and crazy. That's not true. They are wild and crazy, but they believe the same of us.
Yeah.
And so if that can
That's
happen,
my husband's favorite argument when we talk about this stuff.
Yeah. So if that can happen to him, it can happen to us. And yes, that would be absolutely horrific. And the further like compounding issue of all of it is it's going to silence our voices. It's going to silence the people who are coming behind us to want to make change in the world. And so this idea that like we're going to celebrate this or he got what he deserved or whatever that I see, and I wish I could say it felt like the majority was not that, but it didn't feel like that this morning and it didn't feel like that last night to me.
I mean, we're just,
it's terrible.
It's what you see in your feed. It's often.
So what I've been seeing, it seems like, is I have a lot of friends on Facebook, people I know, people I've worked with that are Republican and more conservative, and they have been making post after post saying, if you're rejoicing at his death, unfriend me right now, or if you're giddy with excitement, then you're not a true American, you're disgusting. And I've been nervous about that because I haven't seen a single person being giddy. I have seen people being like, sharing that meme of like, so sad, moving on. I've seen that, but I have not seen anybody express joy, and I'm really glad about that on my feed, but I do realize it is happening in other places.
Yeah, it is happening.
I've for sure seen a few.
And I'm glad you haven't seen it because it's really terrible.
Yeah.
It's really, really terrible and it's out there. And I'd like to believe it's not everyone too, but I also like the conversation, like even in like the things that I've been posting and then people are kind of coming back at me like, I'm not a true Democrat or I'm not a true progressive because I'm, recognizing
Because you have empathy?
all this stuff. And it's like, I get, like, this issue is multi-dimensional and very, very complex. And it is possible to hold multiple truths at once.
Yes.
One of those truths is his rhetoric was terrible and vile, and some of that stuff that I didn't even know he said, I now know he said because it's more coming out today. And I'm like, oh my God, terrible. That's a truth. The other truth that we can hold at the same time is people should be able to have political speech in our country, no matter what it is, and not get killed.
Yeah.
And people should be able to attend political events and not have to run away and dodge bullets.
And college campuses should be safe places.
Yeah.
And so should elementary schools and church schools and high schools
grocery
and
stores,
grocery
synagogues.
stores. Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a whole nother gun violence.
Yeah. And
issue.
so, like, we can hold both of those things to be true. And it doesn't make us, like, hypocrites.
Yeah.
To think both of those things are true. One, his rhetoric was terrible, totally not aligned with my values, totally dangerous and horrific. And he should have been shot for doing political speeches. And, like, we can do that. We can do that.
I think not only that, like, I will take it even a step further of, like, if you are absolutely incapable of having any empathy for him, I'm not necessarily judging you. I do think you have an empathy problem, but I will say, like, I saw trans people being like, he called for violence against me and people like me. So I, Jennifer, am coming from a privileged place of being a white woman in America, middle class, etc. And, these transgender people that I've seen saying, like, he came for me. He already came for me. I can't have empathy for him. I think that's totally valid. You don't have to have empathy for somebody. But that doesn't mean you post something that says, I can't have empathy for him. He got what he deserved. Like, you can stop yourself. You don't have to.
Yeah. And even if you can't have empathy, right? And, like, I'm not necessarily, like, gushing with empathy, right? But even if you can't have empathy, you can take that whole idea of empathy and put it to the side and still recognize that this was terrible.
Yeah.
And still recognize this was terrible beyond this person, beyond his family, because of the impact that it can have on our country and the very things that our country was founded on.
I mean, we've already had, Paul Pelosi got attacked with a hammer. Melissa Hortman and her husband were murdered in Minnesota, and I apologize, I forget the name of the other representative and his wife who were shot but did not die. Gabby Giffords years ago, and there's been more. I mean, and I hate to say it, but yeah, Trump, people were attempting to harm him as well. So it happens on both sides. I think we can reasonably say that the majority of mass shootings in this country have happened from a particular side, and it's not Democrats. But regardless, that doesn't, that's not really the point. The point is, these things are happening and we don't have to condone them. And we don't, we, like you said, we can hold multiple emotions and we can choose what we put out into the world.
Can I say something real quick about the both side thing? Like, I think that's a question of, like, cause and effect, right? So, like, I can agree that on both sides, although there's really multiple sides, right? There has been people who have carried out political violence. Yeah. Like, I can agree. That's the effect. I can't get behind this idea that both sides are equally responsible for the cause.
No.
That is another example of holding multiple things at the same time. Like, yes, nobody, like, we don't even know who this shooter was or what his motivation was, but, like, the effect is that, but the rhetoric, the culture we're living in, the horrible, like language that we're using, that is all being driven by the man who's occupying the Oval Office and his minions. Yeah. And there is no cause on the left that you can credibly point to that says that is making that effect happen.
And the gun rights movement.
There is both sides.
And the gun rights movement that has been
the
around.
NRA, the gun rights movement.
We support the Second Amendment.
All of that.
But the gun rights movement has taken things, taken the idea of gun ownership, which has been an American staple, and turned it into a cult. That's the NRA. They didn't used to be like that. So the gun culture in this country, the political discourse that has gotten so bad. And I'm not saying that Democrats are perfect and never said anything wrong. Listen, but the violent rhetoric has come from the right most of the time. And that's why Nancy Mace and Donald Trump already blamed it on us, on the Democrats. We don't know that. And even if this person turns out to have been from the left in whatever way, that doesn't mean that that's the fault of the people speaking about these issues. You would never have heard violent rhetoric from any three of us. Mm-hmm. And I can guarantee you most of the Democrats out there are not using violent rhetoric. So this whole idea of Democrats need to tone down, fuck that.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. So when you might hear us saying both sides, you might hear other people saying both sides, and what I want us to think about is there are both sides experiencing the effect of the same cause, and the cause is coming not from the left, and that is just like that I cannot be convinced otherwise of that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would love for them to point to the words that Democrats have spoken that would have enticed somebody on the left to commit this crime. This is somebody that has done so because of their own belief system. Maybe there's mental health issues in there. We don't know. This person felt driven to do this for their personal reasons, not because any of us convinced them to.
Yeah. And also, while we're mentioning mental health, I mean, if we are blaming mental illness, and we are, which, I mean, we have no idea if this person had a mental illness or not, but the truth of the matter is the vast majority of folks who have mental illness are not doing something like this. And also,
it's a scapegoat for the right.
If that is your solution, then, or if it is where you're putting the blame on, then what's the solution to that? Let's offer more mental health services. Let's have more social workers, more psychiatrists, more therapists. And instead, services are being cut.
Absolutely.
The community mental health budget in Michigan is being cut. People are, with the national cuts to Medicaid, people are losing coverage, and people are not having the access to the medications they need and the therapists they need. And that is not good for anyone's mental health. And so if that's your solution, if that's what you're blaming, then you can't also cut it. It doesn't make any sense.
Same thing with policing.
Yes.
They fired the FBI director in Salt Lake City for whatever reason recently. Would that have affected the situation? We don't know. But it is a factor to consider. And they've fired a lot of people in the FBI and other organizations that don't match their the loyalty status that they expect, and
that had been there for years.
They had been there for years, yes. And this is kind of next to this issue, but I listening to J.B. Pritzker talk about how funding for policing in Chicago has been cut, but he wants to send in the National Guard.
Yeah.
Same thing with DC. Same thing with LA. You know what would help policing in those cities? Funding the policing. And you don't have to send in the National Guard.
Such a radical.
Well,
I know. Such
a good point, Alaynah. It's like that difference between like what your words are and what your actions are, and like I think that mental health is a big old scapegoat for what's going on as far as like the gun crisis in the country, and we're using that, or they're using that as a scapegoat because they don't want to talk about the actual cause, which is the fucking gun lobby.
Yeah.
So like that's what's going on, and we know it, and everybody sees it, and yet here we are, and I think that I don't know if the firing of those officials in Salt Lake City would have done a difference, but I also
I'm sure it didn't help.
And I also know that local like knowledge and on the ground knowledge is so critical, and I also know that like maybe it wouldn't have helped the incident from happening, but it maybe could have helped in like the manhunt that happened afterwards, and the like
that is happening,
and the bunch of like missteps and terrible communication that came out from Kash Patel and others like right afterwards, and if we had folks on the ground and people were actually like qualified to do the jobs that they were approved to do by our inept Congress, then we could have been in a different place.
Yeah.
So So I'm pretty fired up. And
Oh, and before anybody decides to tell us that we're blaming the Congress for the shooting of Charlie Kirk, that's not what we mean, friends. We're just saying, if you want to increase policing, don't cut the funding.
well, we don't know yet if we can blame the Congress, but
Yeah.
like, I think we can blame people who are in the pockets of the NRA
For sure.
for what's going on, and those are congressional, like, supposed representatives on the right. So,
And gun culture is a huge problem in this country.
Yeah.
And that does not mean owning guns is a problem in this country. Gun culture.
Yeah.
I own guns. I shoot guns. I don't have a problem with guns. The culture, the cult culture of owning guns, that's an issue.
And I think there's also something to be said by, and I realize, you know, people have been saying this for the past 100 years, but I think that as violence becomes more commonplace, we become numb to it at some level,
Yeah.
and just don't respect like what the value of a human life is. I mean, just any human life, you know. And with everything going on in, you know, in Gaza and Palestine and the huge loss of life there, that we're just like, well, that's sad, but let's go on with our daily life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's life being lost everywhere around the world, and with all the school shootings and church shootings and everything shootings, and it's a loss of life that we need to value when there's a loss of life. And
tell us about the thing you said about the high school student at McDonald's and how she saw the video.
yeah, I was in McDonald's earlier today, and there was the high school students were in there, and they were talking all about this. Every one of them had, you know, seen the videos and had something to say. And the one girl, while I was there, showed the video to another girl, and she was like, "Oh, that's sick," and it's just. And, you know, another one said, "Oh, I only watched the video because my mom told me not to."
Yeah.
And
I told my twins not to watch it this morning, so I guess they're probably going to school.
Yeah, and it was, you know, there was very much an attitude of, like, kind of like fuck around and find out. Like, from many of the kids there. I know you said that's not what your kids are saying.
Oh, my kid did.
Oh, okay.
My 17-year-old was definitely FAFO. And I'm sad that he kind of responded that way, and I definitely want to have some more conversations with him. But I think the one thing, and Sarah's kids were not, they had the appropriate response. Good on Sarah. But like our 3 teenagers, who are all like 17, 16 years old, they all knew who Charlie Kirk was.
Yeah, right away.
And I was like, boys, I need to talk to you about something. And my son's like, oh, I already know Charlie Kirk got shot. And I'm like, what? And Alaynah's fiance Michael pointed out to us that that's what's been happening. That for a decade or more. Well, I mean, Charlie Kirk's founded TPUSA at 18, and he's 31. So you do the math. Okay. They have been promoting his videos to young people for all that time.
Yeah.
And while Sarah and I's children were like, yeah, he's a horrible human being, so, you know, they don't think he's great. The fact that has been promoted, you know, they could accuse us of grooming people. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, we're doing the indoctrination.
Yeah.
But they're spending millions of dollars putting those videos,
you know,
in front of our kids' faces.
When they're posting videos that are pro-gun, anti-Semitic, like
racist as hell.
Yeah.
Like it's just terrible stuff. And your point about like, becoming numb, and that the students in McDonald's this morning seeing the video and like literally seeing somebody get shot to death yesterday. That's the culture that we're living in right now.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
I will say that I watched the video yesterday, and I like a very up close video where it happened, and I just thought, okay, I'm gonna watch this, and I was very shook up afterwards. I did not necessarily know that it would have that much of an effect over me, but the kids to the kids that were watching it today were just like, oh, that's sick, play it again. And we're just like,
Yeah.
it just shook me, their response to
Yeah.
it. Because I know I was horrified and I
They're-
wish that I hadn't watched it.
Yeah, and I for sure did not watch it because I knew that I would have the same reaction you did. And I said, and Riley's like, oh, I already watched it. And I'm like, oh my God. He's like, it was far away. You couldn't really see anything. So he saw a video that was like a further away shot. And I'm like, well, there's one that's really close. So please don't watch that. But our kids, to some extent, are so desensitized, and I don't want to be like those video games. Our kids are ruined. I'm not telling my kids not play video games. My kids play video games, but the violent ones, I mean, we have to be honest. And the movies that I watch,
just the videos like this that come out, and like the reality of it all. I mean, you get numb to it, and the other thing is, like, I did see the video. I was horrified, but not as much as I probably should have been. And the thing that made me the most horrified was picturing me or one of you or one of our friends in his place. Because that whole environment, that crowd of people outside, that speaker standing up front with a microphone is something that we have done hundreds of times,
and we'll do more,
and we'll do more with more trepidation. I can tell you though, when we have done those things, we just did a rally on Labor Day just a week or two ago, and I didn't have to speak at that, so my job was to hold the banner. I held the banner the whole time right up front, and the whole time I'm scanning the crowd. I'm like, is there anyone who looks like a little suspicious or that I don't know, or is wearing like a longer jacket than he needs to be wearing?
100%.
I'm always looking out for, like, if we're inside, like, where's the exits, and if something goes down, like, what am I going to do? And that's the world we live in. And it just got, as of yesterday, harder and more scary to do those things.
Yeah.
And that is one of the true, like, horrible outcomes of all of this, is that it's getting harder for us all. And so there should be nobody that's applauding that or laughing at it or, calling it karma.
Yeah,
because it's terrible. So I'm super fired up, and I need to calm down. I just, like, literally today I wanted to work out this morning. I was going to do some other things, and I just was like just vibrating on this whole issue. I could not focus, and I got to get to work this afternoon. But I'm wondering what you guys are doing to, like, recenter and calm down and get back on track.
I'm really good at burying emotions. Compartmentalizing, that's what we'll call it.
I am trying to lean into my friendships, into my relationships, and be a support for the people that I love and that love me. And just, I feel like we would all be absolutely lost without our community.
Yeah.
And our community that we have built and the networks that we've established. And I feel like that's kind of all we have to rely on right now.
Oh, I love that, Alaynah.
Definitely the community. Like, I just look back to, like, how I felt when Trump won in 2016, or how I felt when 9/11 happened, or how I felt when these various things happened, and I didn't have a community.
Yeah, we didn't have this kind of space that we're in right now.
And now when these tragic things happen, I have you guys and a whole lot of other wonderful people.
Yeah, and to, like, loop that back around to, like, the purpose of our pod, right, is our whole podcast and all the things that we're doing is around, like, building up that local power. And doing that is building up the community, and you don't necessarily do it for the purpose of having spaces like this after a horrible event, but it is one of the things you get when you're able to do that, and you're stronger for it. And so that's really important. I'm going to keep reminding myself that I don't have to accept every invitation to an argument, especially on social media. I also don't have to go and post every thought that comes into my head and then feel like I have to defend it, although I did some of that this morning. I'm going to try. Like, I can't totally shut off social media, but I'm going to try to, like, turn down the volume in my life and just, like, find a half hour to work out a little bit and and know that, like, we have two choices here. We can either, be more afraid and stop speaking out and stop doing the things that we know is so important locally, to affect change statewide and nationally. We can stop doing that, or we can double down and do it more. And I'm going to remind myself that that's a choice that I have, and I'm going to choose the second one. So, yeah. Well, thanks to you both for this kind of special edition of Beyond Resistance pod, and thanks to you all for listening. And be safe out there. Take care.
Bye, everybody.